All right, right on. Welcome to Right On with Jon Crane, and today what I have up next in the What's in Your Bag tool series, I'm going to be taking a look at some essential marking tools that I feel everyone should have in their bag or in their shop. So there's quite a few of them, so let's dive in and take a look. All right, here is a collection of marking tools that I have laid out here on the table. And I feel that these are great to have in your bag or at least in your shop. And over the years, I've compiled these or this type of marking utensil, and I found them to be really helpful. So we're going to start. Number one right here is the old classic Carpenter's Pencil there. And this is great, right? It's a rectangular flat pencil, and always good for, not rolling off the table because it's flat, right? Or rolling off a roof or something like that if you're working. And I really like sharpening this to a kind of a chisel tip there. I don't know, I've always gotten the habit of sharpening it like that. And I do like coming in just with the utility knife there and sharpening it, right? And bringing it to that chisel tip. And I know they make these devices right here for sharpening these Carpenter's pencils. And I think this came free or something with a box of them that I got. But I don't really care for how that sharpens this type of pencil. This one, I really do like that flat chisel tip. And this also is a great scribing tool. And so many times I'm wrapping that kind of pencil with some tape to thicken up the sides of this pencil here because I am using it as a scribing tool. And this could be used for baseboard or scribing around some rocks or you name it. Right here, for instance, say you had a piece of baseboard, and I know I was going over this in a previous video showing the dividers and scribing a piece of baseboard, but you can also do it with a carpenter's pencil. And say this floor was, going up and down and you want to fit this board. You just come right in with this pencil here, run this along the floor and along the bottom of your baseboard, and then you take that over and you scribe that line off and trim that off, and that will fit exactly flush to the floor there. So that's a good use of this Carpenter's pencil right there to be used as a scribe. All right, next up is the mechanical pencil right here, and this is a 0.7 lead there. And another essential tool I feel to have in the bag, whether you're working on drawings or you're working on just some fine layout, on some wood or on some metal or whatever have you. But the mechanical pencil is just a great tool to have in the bag there. Right? The mechanical pencil just gives you a really nice line that you can hold tight to the side of a square there. And that comes in pretty handy because sometimes you come in with say like a number 2 pencil here, and that tip is so thick, and when you run it up against the side of the square there, it's actually moving that line off of the side of the square, sometimes a 32nd of an inch, and if that's critical, depending on what you're doing, that can throw you off there. All right, up next right here is the grease pencil there. And this is classic for writing on glass or steel or that type of thing. Always a great tool to have in the bag. Sometimes is even good when you're working around grease and oil. And next up here, I always like to have a silver pencil in the bag. And sometimes, right, this is great for working on dark surfaces. If you're working on a piece of steel, something real dark, and you want to see your line stand out, this is just great to come in with the silver pencil, make your lines, and have that just really stand out. So another good one to have in the bag there. All right, now we're moving over into marker land, right? Of course, you got to have a Sharpie, right? Like I'm wearing my vest all the time, and I always got a Sharpie up there in the pocket. Other than that, right, I got the Sharpie. I usually have a mechanical pencil, and I got a scribing tool of some sort in my vest pocket there. But, right, Sharpie, I don't really got to explain that. Everybody knows how important that is. But it's also good to have a fine point one on board if you want to do some more detailed work. And right here, this is a really cool marker right here. This is a Pika, and this is one of these long-nosed markers there. And you can see right there how slender that tip is. And these are just amazing for getting into deep holes or transferring marks. Right, say you got a piece of steel here and you got some holes in there. This is some 1-inch thick steel right here. And you want to transfer these down onto a pattern, right? You can pull out this, and this is just awesome. You can get right down in there and mark those holes. And look at that, just perfect. So, you know, these are like $5-6 a pop, that type of thing, but definitely worth it. Pika, and then also Fastcat makes a version of a long-nosed marker like that. But I feel an essential tool to have in the bag. I'm always coming up against something there where I need that long-nosed marker. All right, up next in the marker category is the big Sharpie Magnum there. And, you know, not only is this great for, you know, writing a sign there, but at the same time, I really like to use it as layout die, right? So usually I get this in blue, sometimes I get it in red, but if you got some sheet metal, that type of thing, you come coat it with this marker, and then you can use this for layout. So like this piece of steel right here, I just did some layout on this, and you know, just using that Sharpie as diecom there, as layout die, and it works just the same. And I really like using that Sharpie and that use right there, the Sharp'em. All right, next up is the paint pens here, right? And I don't have a particular go-to brand, but, you know, I bought some of these recently, these MILWAUKEE ones, right? You know, everybody's making everything now. And but I do like this yellow color right here. And, right, you got to shake them up and depress the tip on there a little bit. But these are great. And like one use that I like here around the shop is labeling these oil cans, and I've labeled a few of these recently with these paint pens. And so like this can right here, I'm going to put the RT right on here. And that's going to signify this can right here as a rapid tap. So there you go. Got the paint pens, and these are just good for all kinds of things around the shop. And even like these white ones, you know, sometimes I'm working on something white, and you can use this as a little touch-up marker there. So, you know, all kinds of handy uses around the shop. All right, up next is scribing tools, right? And here's like a little Carbide Scribe right there. Here's another old scribing tool here of my grandfather's. Almost looks like a pick or something that you'd use to pull some crab out, right? And, you know, a lot of times I'm using this old Stanley awl there as a scribing or marking tool as well. And just like this piece of steel right here, right? This is all laid out with a Carbide Scribe there and a square. And also, you know, on your square right there, don't forget, there's always a little scribing tool, you know, always waiting there right in the bottom. And that's great for getting really nice, accurate layout with the square, especially if you got some sharpen or some die laid out on whatever you're working on. All right, up next is actually the utility knife here. And I'm using this all the time here as a marking tool, right? And sometimes I'm pulling out the tape measure or I'm pulling out the square. And I'm using this for a really accurate line. You can get pretty precise with a knife, you know, if you're able to put a little bit of a mark in your board or whatever you're working on there. But you can get nice and tight to the side of a square, right? And sometimes if you're cutting, you know, with a handsaw, or even if you're cutting with a jigsaw or whatever have you, right? If you come in and you use your knife to score your line, that's a good trick there to prevent the wood from fraying up right where you're cutting. So you can come in, use your knife there, and then come in and cut with the saw right along that line, and you won't have it all splinter up on you. All right, up next over here is the Soapstone, and this is the classic metal worker's tool right here. And you know, been using this forever in that trade there, and it's great. It writes well on the steel there. You can use it, you know, to do your layout, and just like a carpenter's pencil, I like to sharpen that to a little bit of a tip. You can take this over to the belt sander, you know, tap each side, and as you do sharpen this, you can feel this. It feels just like talcum powder. It's really soft and silky smooth there. But one good thing about the Soapstone there, especially if you're doing some layout on some steel and then you're coming back and say you're going to cut this with a cutting torch or that type of thing, a good positive about this is that the Soapstone is not just going to burn away when you're cutting with the cutting torch. So it's going to stand up to the heat there, as opposed to, you know, if you came in and you laid that out with a marker, you're just going to burn your marker line right off. But with the Soapstone, that's going to stay, and you'll be able to cut that line and see it the whole time. All right, and here's another classic right here is these Mark All paint sticks. And this is an old school box right here. But they come kind of encased in like a hard wax or that type of thing. But all you do is you trim off the top of this here with the knife, right? And you open up, and underneath is this nice, it's kind of like a grease pen type of thing. You know where I find myself using this the most is I keep this in a box, you know, with my stuff, with my chainsaw and all my cutting stuff when I'm doing firewood. And this is just great for, you know, coming on a log and marking where you're going to cut with the chainsaw. And this stands out in that nice orange there. So another great thing, you know, to have in the bag there is the Mark All paint sticks. All right, that about wraps it up there for the marking utensils that I keep in my bag there, or that I have in the shop. And, you know, I'm sure I'm missing quite a few others there that are pretty important. But, you know, maybe you got a favorite there and you want to leave something in the comments there of, you know, a marker or a scribe or that type of thing that you like using in the shop there. And maybe drop something in the comments. All right, hopefully you guys are liking these videos, and these are some useful tips here for you. Oh, and just a quick note here. I think I'll put a link to some of these in the description here of the video. And then also over at my website, writeonwithjoncrane.com, I'm compiling a list there, and I'll also have links to where you can buy these as well. And, you know, if you're looking to put together your own tool bag type of thing, I'm putting that list together for people there just for reference. So, all right. I hope you guys are great, and I'll see you soon.